Order, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have a roll call, please?
Jason Tron.
Here.
Julie Simpson. Jeff Bard.
Here.
Robin Cleek. Here. Les Pullen here. Matt Jacobs.
Here.
Sonali Pato.
Here. 6 present, 1 absent, and Jeff is joining us via conference call. Public comment. Anybody from the public wishes to comment? No? Please?
We actually have public and nobody's commenting.
No. The presentations. The first presentation is by Dr. Joe Porto. It's about the referendum and the community education.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm sorry to disrupt the normal routine. I know that usually these are done at the seats, but I just have to stand when I do a presentation, so I hope you don't mind. A little bit different. So tonight I wanted to share a PowerPoint, and the main purpose tonight is to talk about the unique and distinct roles that the district has to play during a referendum and a supportive community group. They are 2 different entities, they have 2 different roles, and I'd like to take you through this process. And if you have questions along the way, feel free to interrupt. It's okay while they're on your mind, okay? So I put this together actually, all right out of the sheet.
That was a good presentation. Thank you.
Oh, turn it on. Duh. All right. There we go. So actually, my story, I put this together after a successful referendum that we were able to run up in Wilmette in my district, which was called Avoca District 37. And if you look at the date that we ran that referendum, April 7th, 2009, it was during the deepest, darkest, gloomiest portion of the Great Recession. And everybody around the state who was thinking about doing referendums just kept bailing, and everyone was telling us, why are you doing this? You're heading into trouble. You look at the economy's collapsing. But we had told the community that we needed the money. We thought that it would be bad faith to then say, oh, never mind. So we went ahead, and I'm very proud to report during that economic climate, we passed 59%, almost 60% yes. So after that happened, I had people around the state writing to me saying, how did you do that? Would you do a presentation on how that worked? So I put this together, and I've shared it at the School Board Association and various other conferences. Not all of it is applicable tonight, so I'm going to be kind of zipping mainly through the first part and concentrating more on the role of district communication and communication by the committee.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you 1 second
Yeah.
already? I'm getting a text from somebody watching live at home that the live portion is frozen. I don't know if there's anything we can do about it right now, but for whatever that's worth. So
Okay. Presentation into before, during, and after. Since we're already at the during, I didn't want to spend too much time on the before, but I will show you a little bit about some of the things we did, because it'll make the during and the after seem to make more sense. So the main thing you want to do leading up to a referendum is have a good story to tell. It's very important to have a story to tell with a simple message. Our referendum in Wilmette was a tax rate, not a building. So it was a little different than we're doing here. But we had a really nice story to tell. While we worked for 4 years cutting costs, our test scores and our progress on academics went up. It's a pretty darn good story to be able to tell when you're heading into a referendum. In our case, this is not about a tax rate. There's a small portion, but our main thing is space. So So our story, the story that we'll be telling here in Hawthorne 73, is a story of space crunch, space needs, here and now. So it's a little bit different thing. But to tell that story, we told the community our budget projections, we did a fund balance targets, we talked to them about revenue enhancements, everything we did to get as much revenue in as we could, and then we took a lot of time telling them all of our cost reductions we had been doing over the years. And while we were doing that, every once in a while we made what we called a strategic spend, something that we then put a little more money into that would end up improving our curriculum and instruction. Ours was a little district, so these numbers don't sound too impressive, but we ended up cutting $800,000 from our yearly budget. We did $200,000 in strategic spends. So we had a net decrease of $600,000 a year. It delayed the need for our referendum for 4 years, and the community really appreciated that. Most communities want to know that we've gone through a little sacrifice before you go and ask them for money. I think the same holds true here. And again, our story was the quality and continuous improvement. We used this chart a lot. You don't even have to look at the numbers, just look at the visual. This was our student academic performance. And during the years we were cutting cutting the budget, our test scores were shooting way up. So that's all the before stuff. I want to really spend the rest of this time talking about what we're going to do now, the during. And there's two distinct responsibilities. The district has a responsibility to get the word out. And if there's people in the community that support the referendum and want to put a committee together and work on behalf of the district, they have a unique responsibility. So I'm going to start with what we need to focus on as a district, then I'll shift to what a community group can do. So what do we want to do as a district? There's a balance role. So number one, first and foremost, as a district, we have to have a simple message. You can call them talking points, key points, whatever you want to call them. It should be 4 or 5, just for community members to know. We have a board subcommittee that's been working on this, and we're pretty darn close to having our talking points all set to go. I believe we have 4 of talking points. So simplicity is really important, and consistency. So you have to have a message. We had 5 talking points in Avoca. It was boom, 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 boom. No need to go through them. It was a different kind of referendum. But the message is the same. You have to clearly define what you are doing and why, and then you have to keep that message consistent. And you can't be giving people documents with 3 or 4 or 5 pages that they have to read through. It's not insulting to the community to keep it simple. They want it simple. The other thing that, in our case, in the district that I was in, we had to do is we prepared the list. I know this can sound a little controversial, but in our case, if this referendum didn't pass, there were specific, pretty drastic things we were going to have to do, because it was we had waited until we got to the point where if we didn't get a referendum passed, we were going to have to make major cuts in the program. We thought this was not a threat. This was not some scary thing waving over people's heads. This was just the honest truth. This is what was at stake. So we prepared the list of what was going to happen if the referendum failed, and we went right out and told the community about it so that they had all the information that they needed. Then you want to have key visuals, documents, websites, whatever. And if you have some key visuals that match up with the talking points, so if we have 4 talking points with a couple of bullets after each, maybe a couple of documents supporting each one. Keep it simple. Let the people see the same message. We used them in district mailings. We presented the same story, the same talking points during town hall meetings. We had neighborhood meetings that people hosted in their houses, same talking points. These are the talking points you share with volunteers. This is what we share with the staff. So everybody's on the same page. So important. Here's an example. This is a really effective district document, whether it was mailed or put on your website. What? We're doing this increase. Why? Notice the underlying words. Maintain the education program, balance the budget, secure level of reserves. We were trying to get the message that this was not frills, this was not fluff, this was just to maintain. We have similar message for our current. And then when, let people know. Good document. You're not reading 3 or 4 pages. You get this in, oh, I see. Whoops. Here's another one. What's the impact of the referendum? This is the question that everybody wants to know. We made it simple. Well, we told them how much of an increase, but people don't usually relate to that. That's bottom is what people relate to. And our community, our little district was made up of 4 different communities. That's why you see a difference here. But what people want to know, if my house is worth this much, how much can I expect? We need to keep that message simple. I was talking to Abe about this today. You know, you saw Elizabeth Hennessy with all the charts and stuff, and we should make those available, but we should also have a way to make it simple. This is what people want to know. Okay? In our district, instead of doing it by value of the house, we did it by how much you pay currently in property taxes. Either way is effective. This was a document that we showed. This went along with our or else. You can see the reserves going down to the bottom line there. This is if the referendum doesn't pass. A simple visual that anybody could take a look at. This one was a powerful, very powerful one for us. We wanted to let people know we were responsible. Our surrounding districts, they all feed into New Trier High School. Sunset Ridge had done 1 referendum since 1995. Glencoe, Winnetka had done 2. Kenilworth had done 3. Wilmette 1. This is the first time since the tax cap legislation we've asked you. Isn't that a powerful, another real simple, 1-page, very powerful message? Here was a similar one. We liked this one. This is the current tax rates. You could see Avoca was the lowest. And then at the bottom, we hit them with the big message. Even if the referendum passes, Avoca still has the lowest tax rate. Again, none of this matches ours completely, but what I'm trying to show is the kind of messaging, the kind of product you can use. This was a little bit longer than usual, but this is one where we tried to show what our budget reductions were on the left, our academic improvements on the right. And that just matched our story that as our budget went down, our performance went up. So that was a document that matched that. Here's some examples of, we wanted to give specific examples of the kinds of things we cut. People, I want to say this, can't say it strongly enough, people want to hear that you have sacrificed as a district before you come and ask us for more. This was a little visual that I don't think we mailed this. We might have used it at meetings. This one showed how our budget cuts helped stall the need for a referendum for 4 years. And then we always like to throw, you've already seen this, this was what happened with our test score performance during this period. This was our visual for the what's going to happen if this doesn't pass. To put an exclamation point on this, and I know I've been accused that this was a little heavy-handed, but again, I think it was just honest. We literally scheduled a board meeting for the day after the referendum. And we told the community that if the referendum didn't pass, at the meeting the next day, this is what we were going to do. And the big one there is cutting the number of sections, which means we raised class sizes and took, one teacher out of each of our grade levels. Again, I would always argue that that's just being honest. That's not heavy-handed. That's just what's going to happen. We have in Hawthorne a slide that we need to produce like this because we currently have space issues right here and now. And if this doesn't pass in 2 or 3 years, there's going to be more things like this. So I think the community needs to know what's at stake. And it's the district's responsibility. This is all, by the way, again, this isn't the committee. This is the district. Then, now at this point, a referendum committee formed in the community. I'm hoping the same thing happens here in Hawthorne. I know there's a lot of folks here tonight that came to hear what this was all about. It's independent from the district. They don't control what we say, we don't control what they say. But there can be good collaboration, and there should be good collaboration. We can give any of our information to the committee as long as it's just factual and we don't take it too far. The committee can take things much farther than the district can. In short, if you're wondering, well, what can the committee do versus what can we do? The district can and has the responsibility to give all the factual information. Again, the consequences of not pass, all of those things are fair game. What the district cannot do is take it one step further and say in a document, and therefore you should vote yes on November. That's taking it too far. The committee, on the other hand, can go door to door. They can do all kinds of electioneering. They can have materials that say vote yes, over the top. So that's that's the biggest difference. We're informational. We can't get into the actual politicking and the vote yes. A committee can. It's very, very important that the committee is organized, and we happen to have a great one. We had co-chairs. One was a current parent. The other was a former parent who didn't have, I think her kids were in the high school. And she had a whole different set of constituencies that she kind of represented. So it was kind of neat to have a parent and a non-parent member speaking as passionately about the need for the referendum. You want to show that this isn't just a parent thing. Good schools and space in schools is good for the whole community.
Joe?
Yeah.
Quick question. So
Sure.
in terms of the, this committee that's independent from the district, what about board members being on that committee, staff members being on that parent committee?
Board members
District-
cannot be on that committee. You maybe could make a case they could, but it would get really messy. I would recommend no. Teachers and staff members technically could be on that committee, but they couldn't do any activity through the course of a workday. It would have to be all on their own. I know there was some discussion in your last referendum, and I've been told by a couple people that teachers were told that they couldn't help.
Right.
And that's just not accurate. We had teachers knocking on doors. Teachers were a big part of the community committee. They just have to make sure, they're not emailing that kind of work during the school day or doing anything on school grounds. Great question. So the role of the district, as I mentioned, tell the story, clarify the facts, say everything up to but not including vote yes. But the role of the committee, vote yes message. The committee has to be prepared to fundraise. Our committee raised about $15,000. That was a hard thing to do, but it was very important. It paid for yard signs, mailings, all the kinds of materials that you need to run a good campaign. The committee can also, board can't, but the committee can be active in turning out the yes vote on that day, making phone calls, driving people to the polls. These are all things that a community committee can do. And of course, recruit neighborhood volunteers, neighborhood captains, that whole thing.
Dr. Porter,
Yes.
I had a question about,
Please.
During the fundraising, as you had mentioned, can the board members contribute
Yes.
towards that?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes.
And the other one was, what would the role of our foundation be in this? Can they play a role, and would that be more from the district's perspective, or can they be more part of the referendum committee?
We did not have a foundation, so I would have to research that a little bit, to be honest. I believe that it would probably be safer for them to be more aligned with the district role, but they could contribute to the campaign, just like a PTO can contribute. Great question.
Dr. Porter, I have
Yes,
what about spouses of board members?
they can be on any committee they would like, and they're representing themselves as a citizen.
Okay.
Yep.
What about Teddy?
Okay. I'm gonna yes, because we've already talked. So now, a little bit more on the committee, because it's really important that we understand the difference. So now I'm on the committee. They actually have to apply to the state to be an entity, to be an election entity. So they'll need a president, and they'll need like a treasurer, somebody who's willing to do that. There's an easy form to fill. You know, they have to do that. We had just 3 leaders. We had co-chairs and a treasurer. So their structure was very simple. Let's just, in their opinion, it was keep it simple. Early on, they did a lot of recruiting to get more members to their committee, and they did fundraising the best they can. If I could be honest, they did a plea for funds, you know, in one of their first mailings. They got very little. The best thing, the reason they ended up getting about $15,000 is, you know, they ended up talking to the PTA, talking to a couple of people who could make big contributions. So that'll have to be something that the committee decides is the very best thing to do. We got our teachers involved really early because they are, first of all, so passionate. Our teachers are known to the parents and the community, and they have something at stake here. So I feel like that was maybe a resource that wasn't totally utilized last time. And I hope the teachers will be open to that. And then, as I said, there was a treasurer, secretary. They also, this committee was networking with other districts. One of the first things they did, well, who else has passed a building referendum recently? Whoa, look at that website. Maybe we can create our own community website. That stuff is really important because time is of the essence. And why recreate things that have already been successfully done in other places? It's okay to steal good ideas. Very important was this master plan. The committee kind of worked backwards from the date of the election backwards. And, you know, by this date, we're going to have a mailing out about this. This is the date we're going to make phone calls. This is the date we're going to canvass the neighborhoods. And just very well outlined and very well organized. Very important to do that early on. Our district was smaller, so we actually knew exactly how many yes votes we needed to win based on former elections and such. So, you know, they started a database of potential yes voters. First of all, to see if they're getting close to how many they need, but also on election day, you're only halfway there if they're on your list. If they don't go and vote, it doesn't matter. So the committee was very interested in creating a list of who is a potential yes voter and getting their phone number and such and making calls to get them out to the polls. The district had a website about their information, and so did the community group. So people had both places to go to. Couple more things, and then we'll wrap this up. Some other campaign strategies. The committee was even more efficient than we were. We had 5 talking points. The committee said, that's still too many. They made their message just 3 points. I like it because it relates to ours. The problem is real. The proposal is reasonable. Protect what matters most. We could probably, steal that too. It's right in line. Every strategy was built around those 3 talking points. I haven't talked much about this yet, but voter registration efforts, we already started that as a district on our registration day. I highly recommend that we add voter registration opportunities at the upcoming curriculum nights and anything where parents are coming together this fall. That is not electioneering. That is not only okay, but a responsibility of the district to provide a chance to get some new people who haven't voted, on the rolls. So that's okay. We maintain that. They maintain that Yes Vote database. And every district's different. I'm going to need more input from the community. But in our little district, we didn't have great success with bigger town hall meetings, where we just invite everybody. So we divided our little district up in neighborhoods, and one parent in each of the key neighborhoods had a little event at their house. And the committee would come with a PowerPoint and, do a little presentation. Whoever was hosting would invite not just parents, but non-parents. And it was very effective. I don't know Hawthorne enough to know whether that would be a strategy that would work here. My point of even bringing it up is whatever you guys think works here as the district and as the community group, we have to attack it from all angles. No one communication vehicle will work. It's got to be attacked multiple ways. The phone canvassing that the committee did, the district can't do a thing like this, but the committee can. They wanted to do neighborhood door-to-door close to the election. But rather than make that a shot in the dark, they did phone canvassing of neighborhoods first. They found out potential yes voters, and those, or on the line. And those were the houses that they went and talked to. If somebody in the phone canvass says, I'm voting no, my taxes are too high, you respect that, but why would you then go and bother that person again? So the phone canvassing was done to then narrow down neighborhood canvassing. And when I talked to the community group after the election and asked them which were the most effective of their strategies, every one of them said the phone canvassing followed by the door-to-door. Just like old-time campaigning, right? It works. Okay. They had a subcommittee that wrote letters to the editor so that there were positive letters coming into the district. They sought hard to get the Pioneer Press endorsement. And then when we were successful in getting that endorsement, you could bet there were a whole bunch of new mailings with the endorsement of the Pioneer Press and the article that they wrote. And then lawn signs. Most communities, and I believe this one has a law about 30 days in advance. The timing of lawn signs is really critical though. If you go too early, it can become an annoying thing and it can give negative groups a chance to counter you. If you wait too long, you lose your impact. So you have to time that just right. And my group was so organized and they spread the word. There was a specific date you were supposed to put your yard sign up. And like the next morning, the whole Avoca community was awash in these red signs that said vote yes. It was just really impressive how they did that. So these are the kinds of strategies that the community group can get into. And then on election eve, lots of phone calling for getting the vote out. On election day, the committee had poll watchers. They had driving people in vans, to get to the polls. These are all things, I'm going to say it one more time, a district cannot do, a community group can do. And then on election night, they had a nice place to get together. They watched the polls come in, and they celebrated. So that is at least how one district was able to pass a referendum in the middle of a recession. Yes, there's some differences in some of the things I shared, but I think you can see that there's lots of similarities. And so I wanted to end by just saying, on the district side, we've been working on formulating the talking points. We're in the process of creating a document to support each talking point that will be powerful but simple. We're in the process of getting a link on our webpage that will be all referendum related, so every document will also be supported. We plan to do a 3-minute or 4-minute video for each of our main points. So, and then we're going to do mailings and have a schedule of our information campaign. So that's what you could be expecting in the next several weeks. And then probably the whole information campaign is going to be rolling by September. That's what's in the works. As far as a community group, we can't go and recruit. We can't help them organize. We just have to hope they're inspired, and they do that themselves. But they can contact us. They can contact Mark and I, and anything that's information only, they have a right to. Also, if for some reason a vote no group starts, we would have to provide our information to them too. And that's what we would be prepared. Any follow-up questions that you guys have?
Yeah, I don't know if it's really a question or a comment. I liked the way that you broke down the impact to a particular property owner's taxes
Yeah.
that way. And I get why you did it that way where you were. I know so far we've seemed to kind of pick some price points and said if it's $350,000 home, it's affected this way. As I'm sitting here thinking about it, in the various parts of our district boundaries, there's different equalizers being paid. So a $350,000 home in one section of Vernon Hills or Mundelein or Libertyville is being taxed differently than a $350,000 home in a different part. So
That's why,
does it
if
make
you
more
remembered
sense?
mine,
Right. Does
I
it
had
make more
it-
sense for us to do something more like that, where for every, $5,000 we're paying in taxes, it goes up that much? Like, does it make more sense for us to break it down that way?
Abe and I are going to be meeting with Elizabeth Hennessy, who's been your
right.
consultant, and she's working on a couple of ways to show the impact.
Okay.
Because she too agrees that that's going to be the first and most important question asked.
Right.
She also has models for having it be a calculator that can actually be on the website.
Perfect.
So I'll ask her that question.
Okay.
Okay?
And then when you talked about showing the community what we've already sacrificed,
Yes.
of course, yours was a tax rate ask, and ours is that plus the actual brick and mortar building.
Yes.
So I think we're going to need to not just talk about things that we've cut from the budget, but I think we're going to need to talk about the sacrifice so far hasn't always been budgetary. It's that we've been living with cramped spaces for longer than would have been ideal. It's started before there was ever the talk of the 2017 referendum.
Yes.
This was something that has been kind of ongoing and growing and doesn't seem to be going away. So I think we need to emphasize that it's not really just,
I
what
agree.
have we sacrificed from a budgetary standpoint? It's what have we sacrificed from an
Programmatic.
environmental standpoint or programmatic, all that. I mean,
Yes.
what are the teachers sacrificing by teaching in spaces that weren't designed to be classrooms?
One of your most effective strategies for your last referendum were those videos that your principals recorded, where they talked about what was being sacrificed, not in the future, but like
Right.
here and now. We're going to either use those or revise those, but really stress that point.
Well, actually, that was, that video started off our town hall. That wasn't part of the last referendum, was it?
We had a different one at the last referendum. It wasn't quite broken down by principle, I don't think.
I saw one on the
trying to remember.
website. It was
Yeah, that
each
was
of the
new.
principals.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was
new this
new.
time
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
We did that for the community
Yeah.
meetings.
Those are
Yeah.
that is a very powerful tool. We'll want to do something similar.
Yeah,
I think it's important if one of our bullet points is the problem is real,
right,
we have to show that in multiple ways.
right. I agree.
Thanks, Robin. Anybody else?
Yeah, so Election night is 3 months away,
Mhm.
roughly. So what is for the community committee, what's your suggestion on their time frame? Start tomorrow, right?
Start
Or-
2 weeks ago, but
2 Okay.
sooner the better. But it's still early. The old adage about that people don't focus, until after Labor Day, I think there's some truth to that. So as long as they're kicking into high gear come September, that's still a lot of time to
So
get
we
the
got time,
message out.
it's not
Yes.
too late.
I don't think it's so much getting the message out early. I think it's getting the message out effectively. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Porter.
Oh, wow.
Our next item on the agenda is the review of the 2018-19 budget. We are going to move that? Okay.
Is this portion of the meeting?
Okay, so we will move that for later.
Bless you.
I'm sneezing out there.
The next item is policy, the press packet 98. I'm not going to go into details. The only thing that we had to touch on was there's a new policy that was added, which was the accelerated placement program, which is policy number 6:135. We were waiting for a feedback from our legal to get the new policy in place. We had decided that we were not going to open our policy up to kindergarten, but follow what our protocol is for accelerated placement into first grade, as well as subject acceleration and grade acceleration for later if shown. So we were going to keep that. We already have administrative procedures in place for that. But since it is a new policy and we have to, and it does affect a couple other policies of transfer of students too. We were waiting for legal. It came a bit late, so I wasn't able to get it out to you guys. I will get it out to you guys within the next week or so. We'll all review it, and then we'll read
Put
the
it on the
final.
next.
We'll put it on the next agenda, and we'll read the final policy out for the community.
And Allison and Karen are working on that behind the scenes. So.
Yes, and Renee too.
Yeah. Oh,
So that is the update I wanted to give for that.
Thanks.
The next is the CDOL funding update. Dr. Friedman had an update. Before I pass it on to Dr. Friedman. On August 29th, CDOL has its budget meeting, which is a quorum required. If somebody can make it at 7 p.m. at
I can make it now.
you can make it now.
I am.
I guess you can't go to Wrigley.
No. So I will
Okay,
go.
so Matt will fill in, so I don't need a substitute. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Dr. Friedman.
No, there really isn't much regarding the CDOL funding update, other than the flow-through monies have been directed in different ways via the state of Illinois. So we're waiting to kind of hear how the impact on District 73 is going to play out. Renee may have more information on that, I'm not sure, but maybe as you attend the CDOL board meeting, Matt, you'll get a little more definition on that.
Okay. The next is superintendent's report on the update from the interim superintendents on the update on the search for our permanent superintendent.
Mark's going to talk about that.
There's an awful lot going on in District 73, and you can't lose track of the fact that somebody wants to take Joe and my job. So we're just growing into this. Now we're into reality. And we're happy to say that on August 1st, we posted the vacancy. So people have been applying for the position of superintendent in District 73. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of half a dozen to 10 applicants already with minimal advertising, and considering the fact it's August. So we will keep this advertisement up until approximately October 25th, 26th, something like that, mid-October. So we'll do pretty well. So within that advertising, there's some certain specifics that we're looking for in a new leader. And one of them is a minimal of experience as an administrator or as a superintendent in a similar high-performing district. And I think we're very very rigid on this thought. We want someone who will understand our student population, our parent expectations, what the Board of Education is looking for, and it takes a special person for that. We don't consider ourselves out of the ordinary, but we do consider ourselves special. So that is a number one quality. You've got to have 5 strong years of administrator experience. And one of the reasons we do that is because people inevitably, they talk about, well, what about bringing in a non-traditional candidate? What about bringing in someone who, a friend of ours used to work for Nike and climbed the ladder through Nike and then wound up as a superintendent? Very unusual. Doesn't happen anymore. We're looking for the traditionally placed superintendent, traditionally prepared superintendent who has the appropriate credentials, who can step in and do all the things that a superintendent needs to do starting on July 1st or maybe sooner. We never know. So we're also looking for a strong and proven background in instruction, curriculum, and assessment, as well as an understanding of the financial operations of a school district. Yes, we have administrators responsible for those positions, but the superintendent needs to have a macro understanding of that, has to have that big picture and be able to work with the other administrators in the district. Excuse me. They have to have the ability to develop relationships. That's where the culture of District 73 is going to come through. The new superintendent is going to bring his or her flavor to the culture of this district. And hopefully, we'll feel it in a positive way. As a matter of fact, we will feel it in a positive way. We don't have to hope for that. But building staff relationships is critical and key to a high-profile job like superintendent of schools. The other piece is knowledge and understanding of working with a Board of Education. 7 lay people who govern the district's responsibilities and who evaluate the superintendent. So that's a critical piece. The other piece, and I think those in the audience will agree, the ability to work with high expectation parent population. I know you do have high expectations. See smiles out there. And it is. We all have high expectations. The staff has high expectations. The board does. And the parents in our community do. So the person that comes through, they don't need to walk on water, but they do need to be able to do the kinds of things and exhibit the kind of background that would get them an interview and find themselves in front of the Board of Education in an interview process. The board will begin interviewing at the end of November. We haven't collected the dates yet. We're going to have to pick some dates. We're still waiting for one of the consultants to free his calendar. And that will include probably 5 or 6 finalists. The consultants will interview 10 to 12. The 10 to 12 will be cut down to 5 or 6 who match a profile. All of you will have an opportunity to have input in the profile, and then the Board of Education will be charged to bringing that number of 5 or 6 down to a final 2, maybe 3, if it's difficult to decide, and then selecting from that group. Now, how are they going to make that decision? Well, in September, we're going to have a community engagement day. So the organization that has been hired to do the search, BWP and Associates, will be sending a team here. They will interview groups. There will be an interview with the leadership of the PTO. There will be an interview with teacher leaders, administrators. Each Board of Education member will be interviewed one-on-one or have a phone interview. There will be open community forums for people to come in the evening and tell the team just what they are looking for in a new superintendent. And then there's going to be open forums for the whole staff. Whatever staff relationship you have, whether you're certified, non-certified, everyone will be invited. We'll do them after school so that people are there and available. And then the bottom line is there'll be an online survey in English and in Spanish where you'll get an opportunity to answer about 7 pages worth of questions, and that will help create this profile. All this data will be pulled together. The consultants will then present it to the Board of Education, and the board will use this to help find the right match for District 73. There's some science to it, there's some gut feelings to it, there's some observational stuff to it, and in the end, we're hoping the end of December or early January that there will be a new person named as superintendent who will, in the springtime, after the passage of the referendum and after all the other things that we have on our plate are taken care of by Joe and I, be able to come in and enjoy themselves as they get to transition to District 73 while we're in our second part of the year. I've seen this work really well. The person who will be hired will probably be working in another district, so they won't have all day and all night to be here, but they will be able to put some time in, they will be able to have some visibility, and they will be able to be part of District 73 in the spring, part of the decision-making, and part of interacting with the leadership team. That's sort of a summary of what's at stake. The one missing thing is our dates. We're just, again, we should maybe even have them by the end of the week, and then get everybody's calendars out and get them ready. Lynn is going to help coordinate the groups and finding places for everybody to meet. One good thing is a lot of the stuff will take place after school and early evening, so it won't encompass getting in the way of people's dinners or family other obligations or after school responsibilities. We think we've got some good opportunities for everybody to give input. And this is exciting. It's great that we have a lead number of interested parties already and quite a few people calling. Somebody called and said, "Give me the office on Friday, can I come in and see the district?" And that's okay, that's perfectly okay. We just encourage any candidate is not allowed to make contact with individual board members. Once you declare yourself a candidate, you cannot make contact with board members. However, there's nothing to stop them from picking up the phone, calling Abe or Lynn or Alice, anybody in the district in a leadership role, and asking questions. These people are investing in a huge career move because the person that's going to be your next superintendent is someone who's successful somewhere else and sees this as a great opportunity. And we want to paint this picture really well. We're going to use the press to do it, and we're going to use all the success that District 73 has had, and it will show in the proof when we make that official hire and we have a little reception here and have cake and cookies and all that good stuff. It's a fun night when that happens.
Yes.
So I know I went kind of quickly through this. Open for any comments or questions? We're really on our way.
Thank you for giving us so much information. I think it's super helpful to know where.
I want to kill you tonight with over.
No. There's no such thing, in my opinion, as over information. I can never have enough. When you said the requirement will be 5+ years as an administrator, I just want to be clear. That's 5+ years as a super, right? Not just an administrator,
We've
or
left it a little bit open because there's the potential that you could have an assistant or deputy or an associate superintendent who might be a really strong candidate. There's a big trend on folks in those roles making a move up. Well, we'll hear from our profile building whether people are saying, no, we need to have experience. And if that's the way to go, then it's a moot point.
I'll keep an open mind based upon what people say. I mean, my gut instinct would be experience as a super, because
I agree.
I don't want to be anybody's guinea pig, so to speak. And then, is it worthwhile, I mean, how specific can we get during this sort of advertisement for what we're looking for? Is it better just to leave it more open-ended to get the most candidates possible, and then we can whittle it down? Because
well, the candidate pool today for the superintendency is not as large as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's really probably very compact. And so you don't want to discourage people from
Right.
applying. You
Right.
want to be able to make those decisions yourself.
Okay.
So if you see people the pool separates itself. You know, you usually see those with the experience levels you're looking for kind of rise to the top. Inexperience kind of leaves people a little bit lower rung. They haven't done it.
Okay.
Not that they're not capable, they just haven't experienced it. So it usually happens through the process. I would say the bigger the pool, the better it is. I'd rather not turn anybody down.
Okay.
As long as they're qualified. They have to have certification for one.
Right.
We get people who just apply. They go, oh, that sounds like a great job. You know, it's like, well, there are statutory requirements. The state of Illinois requires you to have specific courses. And an
Matt for super.
endorsement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I brought up that topic.
Yeah.
A lot of places say, can we go out of the ordinary? Can we go to Baxter or to Abbott and pick one of their people in leadership roles? And we can't unless they have superintendent certification. They may be
Okay.
great leaders, but they don't
Right,
fulfill
right.
that.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking things like, you know, sometimes you see a job posting say like it would be a bonus if you had this qualification or, you know, something like that. Just not like saying it's a deal breaker if you don't, but would this be a bonus and would that attract a certain somebody who's thought, oh, that's definitely a need I could fill? Or is it worth just leaving it more open-ended, and we can always ask about that during the interview process?
Yeah, I think you're hitting right on the target. Ask it in the interview process that way. Or give the consultants that direction. When you screen, this is a non-negotiable. We got to see this. And so
Okay.
they'll screen those folks who don't have it, and then you won't, you know, be confronted with people who don't meet what you're looking for.
Okay, thank
Because
you.
one thing we have to remember is we want to get as many as we can, is we are going to compete with at least 4 other districts
there's a
right
lot
next to
out
each
there.
other,
Mm-hmm.
like 15 minutes from us. So, and we have got like 4 of them, so including us, that'll make 5 in the same neighborhood. So we got to make sure that we can get the resumes, and as Dr. Friedman said, like, let's us be the ones to say no.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've talked with the consultant group, and we really see that while there's some high-profile superintendents, each of the districts that we're sort of competing with, they're very different. One of them, Palatine. Palatine is the second largest in the state. We're really not seeing that competition for us. Maybe a little more Libertyville, possibly, but I think we're probably standing on our own. And that's good, but you're right, there are others out there. There always are. But if we present ourselves as a great place to come, and we have all of these things taken care of and done, people will flock.
and we are a great place to come, but we have a very
That's our
different
job.
population than a lot of the surrounding districts.
We talk it up, yes. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, any more questions? Okay. The next discussion item is the formation of the intergovernmental committee comprised of the Village Park District and and our school district. So for our school district, we have Robin and Matt as our representatives. This is a committee that is going to be formed. A lot of the details are still getting worked out. So as they will get worked out, Matt and Robin will attend on behalf of the district. They'll bring back the suggestions or they'll take the suggestions or ideas that we had, and we'll take it from there. This is supposed to create an open dialogue and see how we can help each other in becoming a stronger community.
Abe and I attended sort of an organizational meeting, but it was very interesting that I would say half or 3/4 of the people there were all in interim roles. And that was the village personnel. And so Abe is the one man standing who was actually in the job and had been in it for a long time, and we were kind of laughing about that. And so I think this may take a little bit to unfold before the permanent folks are assigned.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it looks like an early September.
Yeah, I think we're still waiting for them to pick an exact date
Yeah,
based upon
so-
everybody's,
That second week of September.
Yeah.
Looked like the first meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, next is our enrollment update. by Lynn. We didn't have anything in our packet because this is
Literally a moving target.
There's water flowing under the bridge.
So, and Lynn has been really busy, we had, last week, we had a lot of our new residents enrolling by appointment only. This week, we started with our returning residents who didn't come to the residency event. So it has been a lot going on. So that's why we didn't have anything in a packet, but Lynn will give us an update on what's going on, and then she'll send us the numbers.
So
as they get
between last week and this week, we've had over 70 new families to our district. Many of those families have more than one child. So that's kind of playing into the fluidity of our numbers. And as you know, those of you that have kind of been watching, we're watching on a day-by-day basis and many times during the day. This week, we opened it to those families that had not been at residency. They're coming in. We're also calling every single family that has not been in yet to ensure that we know who's coming back. Today, that netted 4 families who are not coming back. So it's worth our time to go through these that carefully. So we've assessed the student-to-teacher ratio across the district, and what we have looked at is we really need to address the needs of our earliest learners first. Our kindergarten first graders are paramount to look at when we're looking at increased class sizes. At the end of May, our kindergarten was our lowest enrollment, and now we are at the brink of 25 per class in Elementary South, Town Line, and dual language at kindergarten. In conversations today, we're looking at enrollment, we're looking at space, we're looking at the related arts that would be needed, and the fiscal responsibility. So at this point in time, we have a couple other grade levels across the board at 25, a couple at 26 in the older grades. However, at kindergarten, at 25 per class, that's a lot of kindergartners. So my recommendation at this point in time is to add an additional section of kindergarten at Elementary South, an additional section of kindergarten at Town Line. Checked with both principals to ensure that there's space and that we can maintain our related arts rotations, and both principals feel that we can do that without having to go out and get additional teachers for those rotations at this point in time. And then I spoke with Dr. Tomei. The issue at dual language is that it is a set program at 3 sections across. If we add a 4th section this year, next year we have to add a 4th section at first grade and on up, and you can't guarantee what the kindergarten is. In my talking with him, we talked about the idea of adding an instructional assistant to be shared amongst the 3 classrooms, as well as we weren't sure of the ability to attain a dual language teacher at kindergarten at this late date. So that would be my recommendation for right now. I'd like to continue to watch these numbers. Like I said, they are changing daily through Friday, and take a look. We have 1 possible first grade and a second grade that look like they're getting up there as well. Unfortunately, fiscally, we don't have the money to add across the board to everybody that goes over 25, but I think we're looking at those early students first and foremost, and trying to stay within our budget and within our space constraints. I know that some you may hear that, well, we need to add here and here. We may not have the space in all of those areas. So all of the principals have been really great about looking at where we can add. Like I said, I talked to Jill and Jennifer today. They both assured me that with some moving around, they could add an additional kindergarten. So that's, continued new enrollment and residency verification will dictate the further staffing needs that we have. And I think we'll have a better idea by Friday of what we can do for this year.
But at this time, you are recommending 3 things then?
2 kindergarten, 1 full kindergarten teachers or sections at 1 at Elementary South, 1 at Town Line, and then 1 instructional assistant for the dual language program.
While we then keep an eye on the others that are getting close.
Right.
Got it.
I think the risk of going forward on the others is that 1 may seem high now, but by Thursday, 2 others could be much higher. So that there's just too much in flux right now.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so it's my understanding that the kindergarten at dual language has always had an instructional assistant that they've shared among the 3 classes.
Not that I know of. And here's, with instructional assistants, usually,
might have been special
typically
ed.
they've been with our, maybe our special education needs or 504s or things like
Right.
that. But if they've had extra time that they've probably utilized, if they've, that may be where they've utilized it. But I don't recall, I will look into that, but I don't recall having a.
Because I'm just speaking as my experience as a parent and.
This past year,
Yes,
they had a kindergarten instructional assistant?
I believe so, Mrs. Brioni.
Okay, she may have serviced the kindergartners, but I didn't have it classified as a, she was an ELL assistant, so she may have been in there providing additional services to our bilingual children, which is also part of their instructional program.
Okay. No, I just know, I mean, both my daughters loved working with her.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking. So this would be in addition to, or so was Mrs. Brioni's position
Her position
filled?
is, yes, and because of how she's classified, her position
Okay.
is being filled. This would be in addition to that.
Right.
Okay.
That's already in the staffing plan, so I can look into that, but my recollection is that she serviced ELL needs and was able to service those students that were in the kindergarten classes.
Okay,
So this would be an additional.
okay.
So I
She is an ELL assistant.
Pardon?
She is ELL.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I have a question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That means Elementary South will have 6 sections of kindergarten?
5.
5.
Yes, they had gone down to 4. Our
Okay.
kindergarten numbers were extremely low at the end of the year, and we all said, this is very odd. And then now, all of a sudden, they've held pretty, stable, but now they enrolled.
So essentially, we're not adding a class because Elementary South is a 5-section school, so
Bring it back to-
so it's
We're
bringing
putting
it
it in
back to
line
where.
where
But
it
whatever
should
we
be.
thought we could save by going down to 4 sections
Right,
is
but
now.
it's not.
Right,
Fine.
and that's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
I just wanted to emphasize too that at this time, we're recommending the 2 teachers and 1 assistant, but Abe had built in 4 teachers in case we needed them during this process. So it's all covered budgetarily. This wouldn't be a negative impact.
Gotcha. Real quick question about the dual language. So that's a program where we've been able to limit enrollment. So why the added person? Hasn't this always been a program where there's been about 75 kids, 70 to 75? So why the added person when this number's always been consistent?
To make it consistent with the classes the buildings that had 25, where we're adding an additional teacher, which will bring down their class size. It's to bring their student to teacher, student to assistant ratio more in line with the other kindergartens across the district.
Okay.
I guess,
Last year, they had
I'm just
72.
confused. Which is only 3 less kids. That's 1 less per homeroom.
Yeah, so that last year, they had 72. So, yeah, I mean, because we can cap it at 75.
Right.
So that just seems kind of odd.
That's why I'm not like,
Because last year
understanding
at
it.
Elementary South, we ran kindergarten at 124. That was all 5 sections at 124, so that's almost 25 and 1 class at 24. I don't know if they had instructional assistant or aides in there, but that seems to be, we never popped a classroom there. So for School of Dual Language at 75 to pop 1, this just seems kind of odd. I mean,
We're not popping
We're
one.
We're not
popping.
popping one.
I know
Just-
now
not a
we're not, but-
homeroom, but why
but-
add the instructional aid when that's always been dual languages class
Right.
size ratio?
Yeah, that's what I mean, like, like, when we didn't pop 1 at 125, because when we had 5 at 120, the total at 124 at Elementary South, and like I said, I don't know the amount of aides or assistants that did go into those classrooms, but we ran it at 5 classrooms last year, so I don't understand why we would want to put 1 in a dual language now.
Well, we talked about this afternoon, and again, it's totally the board's decision, but our thought was we're about ready to start 2 new classrooms in these 2 schools with the exact same number. I'm a parent in the dual language, and I find out that when these 2 schools had 75, they got a whole new section. At the very least, we thought that we knew we couldn't add another section, nor should we, but to give them a little extra support for a teacher, kindergarten teacher with 25 kids.
And
We
here's
thought that was an appropriate response. That's where we were coming from.
I hear you, but it is an option program, and everybody knows what the enrollment is when they opt into that program. They know it takes 75 kids, and they know it's a 3-section, so they know they're getting into a homeroom of 25 children. I mean,
And the other
you
thing
know.
is town line, we are going to add another, so it is going to go from 3 to 4 now.
Yes,
So at 75, they'll go to 4.
correct.
Okay.
They're actually at 76, I think, as of 5 o'clock.
Okay.
So we're still taking new enrollments, and that's that. So we've called everybody, so we know those are coming. And so any additional would put that.
And
over
what
to
is that
26.
elementary South's enrollment right now?
They're at 125. Or
Yep.
they're at 90, they're at 101.
They're at 101,
Yeah.
so it's one kid more than 25 for the 4.
Correct.
So for at 101, we are going to have a class. The reason I'm saying this is, and I completely, and this is my personal view, I completely understand that we need to, do something for our early learners. And the lower the class size, especially if in elementary South, which is a 5-section classroom, is the other classes that you are saying that you're watching. Now we've gotten out of the 4 FTEs that we have budgeted for, we're down to 1 left now, and we have so many else left. So I'm like, if just at 25 we are ready to open it without actually knowing the needs or anything else of the kids just by number size, I'd rather wait, because I don't know what's happening in all my other grades and all my other sections. I have 4 teachers to give on my budget. I just gave 3. I will not
2.
have
2.
2
We're the
and 1
third.
assistant.
But that, was the assistant part of the full-time employees that you budgeted
It's
for?
about 2.6 we used, we'll have
Yeah.
1.4 left.
Okay.
So, so then we don't have enough for other sections. So that's why I'm just kind of very cautious and just for numbers' sake giving it. If the needs of those classrooms or, I don't know if we know the needs of every student going in, and if we have to put an assistant in there in elementary South because of the needs of the student, we definitely will and will have to. But I'm just kind of, just because we don't know what's happening in the other sections, I'm just kind of worried that to give that many teachers so soon, to commit to them so soon.
When we talked today, we knew the situation was fluid, and it could go the other way too. And we have no idea about some of the potential no-shows on the first day of school. It's one of those things where you have to take a sense and say, we're going to have to make a move one way or the other. Either we keep things the way they are, or we proactively look because we anticipate the numbers staying the same or growing. And that's the reason for the discussion. And I think that, Lynn's not wedded to any way, shape, or form, going in any direction. We're looking at, in the primary grades,
Taking
it's
care of the youngest.
customized, it's customary to try and bring numbers down as low as possible. Dual language does operate under a completely different guideline. It is, sign up and get in line, and, it's a selective enrollment kind of option. So it does literally not fall within that same guideline. However, when we talked this morning, we talked about equity, and that's why the teacher assistant came up. Not for the purpose of giving them extra staff, even though they were supposed to be capped at 25 per classroom. It was about equity across the district. That could be an issue that has to just sit there and wait till the start of school.
If we do
Which is next week.
Sorry.
Right.
22nd. We have
Which is-
another week.
Yeah, which is next week, so if we don't make a decision now, when would we?
That's
We need
why-
to know by Friday.
That's why
That's
you're
why we
asking now.
came to you tonight.
Exactly.
To at least act on our youngest learners. We know these are firm numbers in these 2 kindergarten classes. The others are not as firm, and they're older students. So we feel a little bit more confident waiting to make any decisions there. But we thought we would at least bring to your attention, we think we're ready on the kindergarten. But if you feel more comfortable waiting a little longer, that's what we can do.
Lynn, what is
Well-
do you know what our total enrollment number is as of
Yeah,
today?
I knew you would ask me, and I did not bring that paper.
We never
Actually,
talked
I
about
did
it
look,
today.
I did look on Friday, and it looked to be similar from last year.
So
But
42,
don't
64?
quote me on the exact number, but it didn't like strike me like, oh my goodness, this is like really out there. But I can get those for you.
Okay.
So here's my school of thought. Not that anybody asked me, but we,
I'll ask you.
thanks,
Robin,
Dr.
what's your-
Friedman.
What's your school of thought?
Thank you. I'm totally a fan of lower class sizes, especially in the lower elementary grades. Not just for the teacher's burden, but the student's environment, all of it. I think we need to be careful with offering up opportunities to, when we talk about equity, to this specific grade coming in right now, that we might not be able to provide moving forward. Now, of course, we can all sit here and think of things that we benefited from because we landed at a certain space in a certain time, and then that benefit got removed and whatever. But when we build the Sullivan Center, if we can build the Sullivan Center, that was designed for 25 per homeroom for a kindergarten center. So now what? Now everybody who comes after this class doesn't get the benefit of being in a homeroom with 18, 19, 20 kids max? Because we don't really have the resources to make a 16 or 18 section kindergarten building all have 20 kids per classroom. So when we talk about equity, okay, I get it as far as this grade goes at this point in time, but I think we need to be careful about expectations and implied promises moving forward about what we'll be able to provide for other kindergarten sections. This class may just benefit. Great. The more students we can help, the better. Yay for us. But the perception from the community may be, so if I had my kid a year before or a year after, I didn't get the same opportunity.
That's life.
I'm not saying it's not life,
So you
but-
said that right when you started, is it is a, roll the dice as to when you get into anything, is whether or not you have, even today, some kindergarten class can have 19, some can have 24. It's just the way the
If
communities
it's the
line
way
up,
the cookie
so-
crumbles, that's different to me than it being the way the board designed it. Of course, my daughter happened to have come into this school in a year where there was lower enrollment across the entire grade. So she's in homerooms that are much smaller than my boys were ever. But that just so happened to be the way the cookie crumbled that year. But I don't want it to be because the board designed it that way, and now we can't do the same thing moving forward for anybody, even when we can see it in the predictable future. I can't predict what's going to happen 10, 20 years down the road, but the predictable future, I just want to be careful about what we set up as far as the expectation and benefit. But like I said, if what we want to do is be able to benefit the most kids that we can right now while we can do it, awesome. I'm all in favor of that. Just, the other thing too is we have had situations before. My child who's currently going into 6th and the grade above him were both large grades. We popped classrooms in the middle of the school year for those. It's not ideal to have students funnel into a new homeroom teacher mid-year.
Really disruptive.
But it was disruptive, but it was better than the fact that somewhere around January, he wound up having 30 kids in his homeroom, even though they had started at 25 in August. So that was able to give a fair amount of relief. Like I said, it's not ideal to do it mid-year, but it's been done before. So I certainly wouldn't recommend it with kindergartners, but it has been done before. I think kindergartners have enough transition that we don't need to wait until October 1st to go, oh no, we need another section.
What did you say the enrollment at Elementary South was?
101.
101. And we had how many sections last? I'm struggling because I'm looking at April's, which is not great, but it's close to the end of the year. We had 120 there.
Yeah.
And then 128 and 130 the year before, and I'm going up the grades, 117, 126, and 119. So I'm kind of struggling with why we would add a section at 101. If
Because
We
we
only
dropped
had-
it from
'Cause we
5
dropped
to
it from
4.
5 to
5 to
4.
4.
Now we're going back up to 5.
Bringing it back
Five.
to where it was.
Okay.
Back to 5.
That's still, all right.
And I'm okay doing that, because, I mean, if you
That
were to,
one.
I'm not a gambling woman, but if you were to ask me on the 22nd, do I really think it's only going to be 101? No.
No.
I think it's going to be like 110 probably. But
That's why we came.
You
That's
know.
why we came.
Well, Elementary
At this
South always
point.
scares me because it's, I
It-
mean,
that
if you look at a
fluctuates a
chart of
ton in
them,
that
it's-
building.
It's constantly moving. You know, Aspen, I'm
Yeah.
okay with because it's pretty much flat once you get to that first day. Dual language kind of bothers me too.
town line
'cause you're looking
fluctuates a
at
lot too.
72, 65, 75, 66, 62, 69. It's like after that first year, you kind of dip down again.
That drops. Most,
Yeah.
lot of
Right.
the kids can't handle
Because
it or
as
something
students
happens.
move
they-
out, they
Exactly.
don't
Well, some of them
allow
come
them to
back.
come into the,
Town line is,
Town line fluctuates a lot too.
fluctuates a lot too.
So, okay,
I'm
if
kind
we
of-
can, we can add it to elementary south, because here is the thing, my biggest worry is the budget. We have
Right.
4 FTEs to give, and I don't wanna give more than that. I'll be very honest, because it's going to start affecting our bottom lines. We are already in deficit spending, every single FTE that we hit is more, and this is not for, so we need to be really cognizant of the fact where we give those 4 that we have built in our budget.
So-
Considering, so if we can give one to elementary south because it's 4 classrooms and we give it to 5. Because I know this is also like 10 days before school starts and we need to get teachers in, qualified and good teachers in what we can find right now. So that is okay. I don't know what everybody thinks about town line and what everybody thinks about dual. But it looks like elementary south, everybody is willing to give one because it seems it
It's
is what
getting them
it
back,
was.
yeah.
You're giving back the 5 sections that it had 5 sections, and the numbers of elementary south will go up on the first day of school. So, if it becomes 110, we have to open a new classroom anyway. So, we can start with a teacher there. But what about
So what
town
is-
line
I
and
mean,
dual?
listen, again, from an equity standpoint, then I think you got to give it to Town Line. Dual, like I said, I think falls under a different umbrella because people knew going into it what that was going
That's
to
why
be.
they're not getting another
That's
class.
why
Right.
we just
Yeah.
And I
recommended
think
the
As
age.
far as, other than like, I know 3rd grade at Aspen is being watched, what else is being watched closely right now?
We have a first grade and a second grade. I didn't bring all the rest of it. A first and a second grade, I'm not sure exactly which building. Aspen, we know the 3rd grade we've been watching, and there's a 4th and I think a 5th grade that were being watched. We do have a 4th and a 5th. I know a 4th and a 5th, and they're at 2 different schools. But I can get you all that tomorrow. I haven't made all the calls on the upper grades, so some of those could still drop. We did drop from, we did get calls made today, and so the drops in the kindergarten, now we feel like we have accurate numbers.
Okay.
So we did drop some from our calls, and I would assume any of the grades that we call, we'll probably pick up 1 to 3 drops that just aren't coming back, and they forgot to let us know in their moving and things.
Okay.
So those are the ones we're watching. However, I can say that we know who's coming this week, we've already got them plugged in. So the new enrollments that are coming Tuesday through Friday, those we know. But we had new calls today. So
Right.
that's like 3 or 4 families, that now that's what's happening, is it's just so many at this time of year that we weren't anticipating or expecting, and it can change any of these grade levels.
This is not something that is pinpoint prediction.
No, I just was curious as to what we were keeping an eye on, because if we're only keeping an eye on 1 or 2 other places, then you
Yeah,
go,
that's
okay, we
it.
won't go beyond the
And they're
4
older.
FTEs, but,
They're older kids.
There were 10 today that I was watching.
older matters, but like, even in 3rd grade, having a class of 30 kids is a bad idea. Like, it's just, you do it,
32 in 7th grade is a bad idea too.
trust me, I know. I have kids that complain about it.
We agree with you.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, there's limitations, and I think
Yeah.
the budgetary piece is a really big one.
And the space piece in the middle school.
Then just for your information and consideration in the future, dual language, it is a Title I school with more than 40% free and reduced. And with the new ESSA requirement, site-based reporting, next year we'll be reporting on expense per pupil per school. So we want to make sure the equity piece is being fully considered.
And as far, I mean, as a parent who has volunteered in the classroom, I absolutely think that even if it's a shared instructional assistant, would be a huge benefit.
That's what we thought. It's not the same as starting another classroom, but it really helps. It
Yeah.
really helps the teachers and the kids.
Thoughts?
It's a committee of the whole discussion, so that's why we can have this discussion and give some direction without a vote.
Yeah.
So, any other comments on that to help Lynn? This woman has lived, eaten, and breathed numbers, including Sunday night when I was at the Cubs game. She's sending text messages with enrollment numbers. And I said, "Who's enrolling on Sunday night?"
I'm not sure we gave her direction, though. It seems
Oh,
like
I
we're,
felt, yeah.
I mean,
Didn't you feel?
well,
this is where I defer to you, our superintendents, and to Lynn.
Well, we brought
as
you the
our-
recommendation tonight that
our
our ad
experts as to
team
what's best, so.
put some thought into. We met this morning. We decided to bring this recommendation to you.
So
So
the
this
next-
is our
The
recommendation.
next you will see would be a recommendation to hire if these numbers stay firm next day or so.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Give me a date.
in terms of the 2 kindergarten class, do you need direction today so that you can post those positions?
We have at the last board meeting, I was given permission to go ahead and post anticipated teachers.
Okay.
So we do have a pool of probably teachers that are very excited to come to Hawthorne 73. So
Somebody
when
will be
we're
happy.
when we're ready, I feel like we're ready, but there's still the process of getting them into the district as
We
well.
can't vote because this is a
Understood.
committee of the
Right,
whole.
right.
But if you give us the direction, we can start moving forward with some preliminary moves to get it done.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we good?
I'm fine with their recommendation.
Robin?
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
the end of the
Thanks, Lynn.
committee of the whole. Now the business meeting. The first is a public comment. There's a public hearing concerning the tentative budget for 2018-19 school year. Do I need to get a roll call for this? Or do I need to make a motion for this?
Perhaps I'll present a brief presentation just to provide framework and then open it up
Okay.
to public comment, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a quick refresher,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of bullet points.
Are we ready for the business meeting? We've got call to order.
So, who to call?
The business meeting to order.
Yes, so I call the business meeting to order. Okay,
Yeah,
Roll call.
and gotta get a roll call.
Jason Tron,
Here.
Julie Simpson, Jeff Bard,
Here.
Robin Cleek,
Here.
Wes Blunt here, Matt Jacobs,
Here.
Sonali Patel.
Here.
Like, hello.
Okay.
You're up.
Good evening, everyone. This is the budget calendar, and we have arrived to August 13th. It's the public hearing on our tentative budget tonight. This is the tentative budget that was approved June 25th. We have presented it several times since then. An expense summary, so what is different for this year as it relates to expenses? The salaries were based upon our last tentative agreement, which factored in a 4% average effective increase for certified staff, 2.75 for ESP, which has been the 3-year historical as well. The revenues from the revenue stream from CPI averaged 1% during these past 3 years. The Ed Fund benefits have increased by about $290,000. That's primarily the PPO insurance renewal that caused that. We're all aware of our transportation renewal going up $300,000 as well. Summer project work is $275,000 and 125 proposed safety projects for $125,000. Finally, workman's comp insurance going up $56,000. Now, overall, the current tentative budget has an overall deficit of $886 with a slight operational surplus of $4,500. don't spend it all in one place. We've got $180,000. So we had 4 contingencies, and now we're down to 1.6 or 1.4 now? 1.4. We did eliminate a full-time position within the district office as a saving strategy. Our copier lease has been fully paid for, and we want to extend the life of these copiers to provide savings of $120,000 for next year. Building and grounds restructuring, less contract service work, more internal work. We presented that at the last meeting. We were able to come up with $270,000 in savings within that department. Our tech budget, we happen to be in a year where our MacBook Air payments are complete, and we are working on and will present a formal master device replacement phase in phase out program at a future date. But that did result in about $270,000 in savings this year. And here you can see the overall impact in revenue for the tentative budget at 61.7 million, and our expenses at 62.6 for the overall deficit of 886. However, just the operational piece resulting in $4,500. Okay, with that we may go back to you.
Do I make a motion for the public hearing? Yes. Do I have a motion? Motion to convene the public hearing for the tentative budget of 2018-19 school year.
Somebody.
Not everybody at once.
Okay. I make the motion to convene the public hearing for the tentative budget for the 2018-19 school year.
I second.
Motion by Sonali, seconded by Robin. Public comment? Come. Going once, twice, gone. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I move that we close the public hearing.
I second.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Wes. The hearing is closed. We have an introduction today. It's a presentation of Ms. Roberta.
I would just like to welcome our new administrative assistant to the superintendent. Joe and I are very happy.
We are
to
so
see you.
happy you're here.
We feel abandoned. And, you know, it's nothing like taking over the job and then find yourself all alone. So we want to introduce Bobby Elfman. Bobby works, still does, for the Regional Office of Education, Dr. Royce Lee Wood in Grays Lake, and she's transitioning to us. Should be an easy move since she understands the education business really well. How many years have you been at the regional office? 12. 12 years, okay.
Wow.
So we have a lot of expertise, and she's going to teach us a few things. And we won't teach her much because we're dependent on her. But we thought at this time when we're going to recognize or do a consent agenda with a bunch of hiring of staff, that this would be the opportunity to get to know Bobby. And also, thank you for coming to the meeting to observe how this meeting is run. And you'll be sitting at the table on the 27th, taking your usual new spots. So we welcome you.
And she starts on Wednesday.
Starts on Wednesday.
Welcome,
Thank
Bobby.
you.
While I welcome Bobby, Roberta, I don't know what to
Bobby.
Bobby, okay. I really want to thank Leslie for stepping up
Yes.
and doing this in the meantime. And
Thanks,
You
Leslie.
really
Thank you so
bailed
much.
us out.
She's not going anywhere.
No, she's here, but I do want to
It
thank
was
her for
above
stepping.
and beyond the college.
Back to her regularly scheduled
Yes.
programming.
So we off to consent agenda. I want to make a motion first because our numbering was a bit off. So
Yes.
I want to make a motion to rectify the numbering. So the numbering will be 813.19 for the board meeting minutes, 813.20 for the personnel, and 813.21 for the action item. Instead of 1, 2, and 3 that was.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Could I have, All,
That can be all in favor.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it's Sonali by Bess. So renumbered. Okay. So now we have the consent agenda items, which is the board meeting minutes of July 23rd. We have personnel, which is new hires, 12 new hires, 4 resignations, and 1 maternity leave. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
By Matt. Could I have a roll call, please?
Jason Tron,
Aye.
Jeff Bard,
Aye.
Robin Cleek,
Aye.
West Pole and I, Matt Jacobs.
Aye.
Sonali Patel.
Aye. Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays. The next is an action item, which is approval of the general obligation limited tax school bonds. Do I have any discussion?
You have to have a
sorry,
motion
motion.
first.
I move that the Board of Education approve a resolution providing for the issue of not to exceed $1,500,000 general obligation limited tax school bonds for the purpose of increasing the working cash fund, and not to exceed $5 million general obligation limited tax school bonds for the purpose of refunding outstanding bonds of the district, providing for the levy of a direct annual tax to pay the principal and interest on said bonds, and authorizing the execution of a bond purchase agreement with Raymond James and Associates, Inc. in connection with the proposed sale of said bonds.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Matt. Do I have a discussion? Do I have a roll call?
Sonali Patel,
Aye.
Matt Jacobs.
Aye.
West Pole and I, Robin Cleek,
Aye.
Jeff Bard,
Aye.
Jason Tron.
Aye.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays. Superintendent, President's report. Last meeting, we had, I don't know, I'm assuming, there was a calendar for the curriculum night, so if people could just sign up for that.
I didn't see one.
There wasn't a calendar? Okay, I'll get you a calendar.
Okay.
Then sign up. That's it. Superintendent's report.
Really quick, we just wanted to comment on the residency event. And again, I have to defer to Lynn. It seemed like every time I looked there, Lynn was doing something at the residency event. Both Joe and I had the opportunity to hang out, meet people, talk with people. Interesting to see and listen to all the different stories, people who you've seen in other parts of your life and coming back. Good event, lots of manpower and woman power, lots of time, lots of volunteerism, all good stuff. We may want to come back with some ideas to streamline.
Amen.
So just
You're
give you
gonna
a
hear
warning.
about this
Yeah.
again in the spring.
Yeah.
Many districts have gone to doing this online. And it's convenient and efficient, and we'd like to at least bring you the information in the spring.
Love to hear it.
Great.
So, but again, the opportunity for people to give a few hours to the school district in the middle of the summer, it's really nice. That
It
part,
was.
Invaluable.
People really came together.
Invaluable, yes. So it was a good event. Enjoyed it.
Actually, on the residency event, I wanted to thank Alma Hawkins for putting it all together. She was running around, and it was really smooth. The only times there were a few lines was here and there when people forgot some things. I wanted to thank all our volunteers who ran the booths, the PTO, Hawthorne Education, BPAC, Arbor was there, every, Sports 11 to make it easier for middle schoolers. And I also want to thank the volunteers at the tech department who really helped in the distribution of the Chromebooks and making
That
it
went
easier.
very well.
So
Yes.
it went easy, and but they were all volunteers, parents, grandparents, siblings. So thank you, everybody, to make it a easy process in the whole thing. That's it. Topics for future meetings. Do we have any topics that people would like for future meetings consideration?
I don't know if this just falls under the topic of the referendum, which I'm sure will come up at every meeting, but when do we talk about the list that Dr. Porto was referring to? Like, when do we have that discussion?
Abe and I are in the process of just launching getting the data that we need to bring to you to make that decision.
Okay.
So we're going to need some help from the principals talking about current reality, and then
Okay.
if the referendum were not to pass,
Okay.
get some feedback from them and put some things together. Then we'd like to bring that to you.
Okay. Thanks.
Anybody else? One of the topics that I think will come up in the future, which not right now, but as, as we settle down a little bit into the school year, would be our staffing. We've had a lot of resignations, and we would like to take a look into it to make sure that we are doing everything we can to attract and retain our staff. So this is a discussion that we need to have because we are losing. We've had a lot of resignations, which just seems to be, and quite a few of them towards the end of the year, which kind of puts us in a bind of hiring on the run, just so to speak. So that is one of the things that I would like to talk about. Maybe, as I said, once we settle down a little bit, we could all get together and see what's the reasons, what can we do, and with two superintendents with so much years of experience to guide us through that process to see what we can.
With committee of the whole opportunities, that's really good.
That's a good
option
topic.
To do.
Yep.
A half-hour quick conversation. What do you think? I think we'll hear some interesting stuff from the Human Resources Department as they do exit interviews and find out what some of the reasons are. Some you cannot do anything about, but if there are things that we can do to change the climate and culture to make this more attractive, we want to do it.
Absolutely.
And another topic for future discussions is the tech. The couple of things that were on our radar, but with Nick leaving and all the, transitions that we've been having, one of the things was last year when we did approve for one-to-one, we had 3 oversight, softwares. We had Hapara, Gaggle, and Securely running on all our machines. At some point, we were supposed to get a report on that as to do we need all 3 of them because we are paying money for this. So to see if what is the status of that, what was found, what was not found by running all these oversight softwares. Were there any flags? I mean, I know this is very confidential, but was there any flag, even a single flag that came up on any of these by running these things, to know if what are we expending and the teachers' feedback on running all these 3 and managing their students through these 3 softwares. That was something we were supposed to get and we never did, so that is something I would like the tech to get to me. The other thing which I noticed during the residency event, and this is, I'm sure it'll take tech a little bit of time to get that, but this is something we need to, is last year was our first year of Chromebooks. How many did we land up repairing because kids didn't take insurances? How much did we pay? We had certain amount that we had as backups. Did we need all those backups? Were there more? Did we have more backups than we needed? I mean, just a report on that because we are paying for all these things.
Right.
So if we didn't need that many backups, then we don't need to keep all of them at hand. Also, insurance it's not mandatory. So how many people didn't take insurance and landed up shutting the laptop or their dog jumped on it and then we had to repair it, and how much did it cost us out of, So in that respect, because I don't think we landed up passing on all the repair. So I just want to know, did we pass on all the repair? If you broke it and you didn't have insurance, did the parents land up paying the $290? Or did we pick up the tab on repairing? I just want to know, because if not, then next year when the school fees are there, we need to look into it as to what we do with the tech fee and the insurances.
Okay.
Because this year is done, but we haven't gotten to that, so we need to take a look into it if we are expending money for something that is not mandatory.
Okay.
So those were my
We can do
topics for tech. One was for software and one was for actual
Repairs.
and repairs. How much did we pay, and are we storing excess Chromebooks?
Will do.
And then, can I add something along the lines of what you were discussing about HR and the resignations? Since we're getting updates and kind of reconvening right now, once Allison is done settling in, can we get some kind of update about the plan moving forward? Because I know every curriculum director attacks that issue a little differently, and I would just love to hear where that's going, what
Allison has
what
a-
our achievement gap plan
She
is.
has a beautiful entry plan, and it's all laid out, and yeah, I bet she'll be eager to share that.
So,
when
yeah,
she
I mean, it
gets
doesn't
the
have to be like at the August 27th
No.
meeting, but
No, it's,
Give her a minute or two, okay?
Maybe the next one.
I was thinking like October. Can we kind of hear,
I mean,
you
a lot
know?
of these things, they might need time to get there, but I just want to make
Right.
sure that these are on our radar, because some of them, you know, just during the transition, we've kind
can
of
get
just
lost in the
lost,
shuffle.
they were
Right.
kind of put on the back burner, especially with the
Sure.
Chromebooks.
Well,
Because-
and that's also like, you know, we usually do get a curriculum update, but obviously we knew by March that that was all in transition, so I'm not sure that that ever happened. And I want to hear, I know the early release days are partially used for curriculum planning, and so I wanted to hear how that was going to be utilized, so just curious.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
6.
Who opposed?
There's a delayed
He's on
reaction
5
from
second
Jeff.
delay
There is
tonight.
a delay.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays. We are adjourned.
Nope, no
right.
closed session.
Oh, wait, I didn't fill out
Jason?
my survey.
I want to talk to somebody.
You have a thing to sign.
Okay.
A thing. I mean, there's so many papers in there. I don't